Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 13 of the Developers Unplugged podcast. Meng, thank you very much for joining
Hi,
us.
hi, Harry. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you very much for coming on. So for anybody that doesn't really know who it is that you are and what you do you mind just giving us a bit of an introduction?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I'm very happy to be here to have this conversation together. And how lucky I am. Today is Friday, and this is the 13th episode. I'm a lucky star.
Well, Friday the
Yes.
13th is usually very unlucky, actually.
But I see it in another way.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. My name is Meng, and I have been working in the tech industry for more than 20 years. So not that short. And along the years, I have had the opportunities to take on different roles like developer, technical support, QA manager, engineering manager, product manager in enterprises like IBM, SAP, also in startup, scale up like Wire, the secure messaging app, and Beamery, which is a talent management system, and also across different regions. Like I have worked in Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, and right now I'm in Germany. I work with the teams all over the world about product lines, B2C. I think Wire is the biggest B2C product I have worked on. It's a messaging tool, so you could imagine a lot of people are using that. And quite some B2B products. Like at IBM, of course, there's a lot of IBM offerings, and Beamery in the HR tech industry. At SAP, I had a very interesting experience at SAP. I was the infrastructure lead at one of the very first low code, no code process automation offering. And that was a massive project. It was tough, but I was super proud that we launched this product in 8 months, and that is considered as pretty fast at the
Very.
enterprise. Yes. And along the years, I focus on building teams. I really like to work with teams, products. I like to build meaningful products, culture that is super important for me, and also trust, which is super, super valuable, but very difficult to build. And now, recently, I have left Beamery and started something on my own. It's called GlowStat, and I want to support tech layoff professionals to navigate the challenging situation and to regain control of their career and to increase the clarity and confidence for their next steps.
What an intro, by the way. I mean, it's just insane. I can tell from like when you're speaking about all of these different experiences, like just how passionate that you are. I mean, it's super impressive, the 8 month time span of the release, especially within a huge company like SAP as well, like you mentioned. I think within startups, maybe there's a few people going, oh, that's not, that's quite standard. But SAP, these huge companies, a lot of people don't realize, there's so many overheads, so the fact that you've been doing that for, the 8 months as such is a huge achievement. And you've clearly been across the globe, you've gone everywhere, now you're in Berlin, specifically in Germany. Do you mind giving us a bit of an insight as to how you got here in Germany, in Berlin?
Okay, so I didn't plan to move to Germany. I was living in Taiwan and working at IBM. I was a software engineering manager there, and I have built like a huge community. I feel very comfortable in Taiwan, but I have never worked in a startup before. And then there was a coincidence. I was doing a backpacking tour in Europe, and Berlin was my last stop. And at that time, I was like, I want to check out the co-working space, the startup scene in Berlin. And I was in Berlin. I didn't have any friends. I went to a meetup. I just want to get to know some people, get a beer. I was on the stage to introduce myself because I was so like fascinated by the city. I was talking about what I was doing. And then afterwards, there are a lot of people like come and talk to me. And there I met my previous CTO. We had like super interesting conversation. He invited me to the office to have a look the next day. and we continue to talk about like what he's building, and then I try to like also offer my 2 cents, like what do I think this product can continue. And then in the end, he asked me the question of would I like to move to Berlin and work together. So that was a huge surprise. I didn't expect this to happen. And then I went back to Taiwan. I thought about that, and then I think if I don't do this now, maybe I will never do it. I will get pretty comfortable at IBM to continue climbing the career ladder, maybe. And then I thought, no, I'm in IT, I'm in tech industry. I would like to work in a startup. That's why I have decided that to move to Berlin and join Wire and spend wonderful 6 years there.
What an amazing story that is as well. So you met the CTO at Wire just through a random meetup?
Yeah, so that's why sometimes people say networking is important. I would say yes. Yeah, so that was like, I didn't have that purpose. It's just like I happened to be there at the right place at the right timing and meet the right people.
Yeah, definitely. And what made you stay in Berlin? Because I imagine that was the initial draw, was like the startup scene, and people always are kind of familiar with Berlin and all of the amazing ideas that come out of it. And I guess the vibrancy of the city is what people say. But like, what's really made you stay in Berlin after all these years?
Yeah, I think definitely not the internet speed or how fast things can be done. But that also trained my patience. I have so much patience than before, and also build up my planning skill. But I think what made me stay is I find Berlin is quite a unique place. I feel that like there's nothing crazy here. And sometimes like I feel that I'm still surprised by the city, even though I have been living here for the past 10 years. And of course, as an expat, sometimes I feel a bit lonely because people move in and then people move out. But I really appreciate this. I feel freedom and I feel safe as a queer person. And also because I meet my partner, and then I have decided that I stay here.
Yeah. Again, it's just such an amazing story, because it's kind of like that you say, you know, networking is kind of it, but it really is, isn't it? Timing is everything, and you don't know until you go to these events. It's almost like I know that life it just kind of works like this, but it's almost like if you didn't go to that networking event, meet the CTO at Wire, we wouldn't be speaking. You probably would have had a completely different career. You wouldn't have even been in Berlin. Like, it's just insane, isn't it? Like, just how these small margins have led you to where you are now and all these different experiences.
Yes, sometimes it's one step and lead to a unimaginable place.
It's just amazing. Genuinely, what an amazing story that is. And then since Wire, did you then move on to SAP straight after Wire? Is that right?
That's correct.
Right. And what was the reason there? What was the reason as to why you think it's like huge, you know, tech giant, I suppose?
Yeah. And that was also not a planned move. So I was at Wire, I was the head of QA and customer support there. And I have been doing QA for quite a while. And at IBM, I also set up the QA team for the security products. But I have been thinking, like, what's my next step? It's like doing QA is good. I think for me is I don't have a problem to do the same thing, but I still have fun doing it. But sometimes I'm curious to know, like, what else can I do? And so that's why I've been thinking, like, okay, all right, after QA for such a long time, maybe I would like to be a product manager. That was the thinking. And then SAP approached me. They have a startup in SAP called SAP Room, and they're looking for head of engineering, and they're interested to talk with me. And for me, that was like, oh, head of engineering, never thought of that before. But I was just like being very open and see like what's the help I can provide, what's the situation. And then after discussing with the co-founders there and after meeting the team, and also I also look at the risk. I think that for me, it feels it's pretty low risk. Yes, it's a role that I have never done before. Will be a stretch for me because QA is part of the engineering, but now we're talking about the whole spectrum of the engineering department. But I feel like I could do this. I think I could do this. So that's why I went to SAP and then helped to scale up Room. At that time, the goal is to scale the team. And the exit strategy for incubator at SAP is to see that if one day could be part of the SAP enterprise. And that actually happened. So I also continue to stay there to lead the transitioning into the SAP enterprise to build this low code, no code product.
Wow. Wow. Because that within itself must have been such a huge shift as well, you know, in terms of just the processes and again, working at such a different, you know, team and whatnot, and then to move on from there. I mean, it must have been quite tricky for you to have left Wire, because I suppose you kind of have that emotional attachment. That was kind of like the company that made you have this whole new life here in Europe, in Berlin. But now, you know, if you don't mind, I know you sort of briefly touched on it. What is it that you're doing now over the last sort of few months? Because you're now starting something of your own, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's something that again new to me. It's the very first time that I actually now being employed, and then starting something on my own. But it has been something that I've thought about for a couple of years, but work has kept me busy. And I have different challenges I really enjoy at Wire or SAP or Beamery. But then now I'm at a point that it's like, what do I want to do with the, let's say, the second half of my career life? And I have been helping some people of my friends or ex-colleagues because right now layoff seems to be a norm, right? It's not something that, wow, this is happening, but right now is so many like people around us experience this. And I have seen the impact of when this happened, even though we know this might come, but still this hit you pretty hard for the first couple of days. And a lot of the things you have to consider, like for example, if you're in Germany, if you have a visa, it's like what's going to happen. And then you receive a paper from your employer. They ask you to sign, and then you don't know if you should do that or not, but where do you find a lawyer, etc. So there are so many things and pretty overwhelming. And I have helped some of the friends to navigate this. And then I start to think like, now should I look for a new job, or I could actually like help people to do that, because that actually touched my heart when I see my friends or people like really lost in this situation. I feel like I should do something. And I also feel that right now I'm a bit disappointed in the industry. And I think there's something we can do to help to gain control back. So that's why I started this Glow Step. And to be very open, is like, I just think that how could I help? And I talked to a lot of my friends or they introduce their friends to me who are undergoing this journey. And because I want to know like, what is the biggest pain point? What is the biggest challenge? And then also what helped them. And then from all those like interviews with different people, I have, let's say, two biggest learning is the uncertainty of not knowing when you will get a new job is constantly there. Sometimes you are up, you feel very motivated. Maybe you finish a course, you brush up your CV, you build something, but then you receive the rejection from the jobs. And maybe like 2 days later, you feel really down. And because you don't know when this will end. So it's very important to keep your emotion balanced. And then one of the answers that I heard the most is like, what's the most helpful thing is the support from their friends, from their partner, family, community. There was a person telling me that sometimes he just doesn't have any motivation. to look at the CV or to send out application. And then in the end, like they step out of their home, they went to their friend's co-working space, sit next to their friend, and then somehow they feel a little bit motivated. They had chats, and then they send out things, applications, and then they celebrate having a coffee, having a beer. And then so that's why I was like, all right, if this could help people, and also the first 2 weeks are the most overwhelming week, I could start with this. And I would really like to build a tech product because I'm from engineering background. But right now is I don't want to rush, and I want to like really to provide help as fast as I can. And Glow Step right now is a community, and I have designed a cohort program. I like to research like different techniques or frameworks that how like people can land a job or figuring out what's their next step. So I kind of like collect them, and then I put them into different workshops. So in the cohort currently is 8 weeks, and it's the very first pilot cohort. We're going to have workshops to do reflection, and then to use the product thinking to see that what actually like what do you want, what do you enjoy to do, and then what the market needs. Instead of mass applying, I would encourage people to look at more like a targeted job search or job matching. And then also there are a lot of very talented people, smart people in the community. So I also would leverage that to co-build this community cohort with them, and then to share that what actually work for people, and let's do experiment. And other than this like structured program, I would also like to have some creative time. So part of the program is I call it create-a-thon. So you could imagine like use your creativity, build something. So a lot of people have some ideas what they want to do if they have time. And now this is the time. Maybe you want to build an MVP. Maybe you have a business idea. Maybe you want to learn new skill. You have a volunteer project you want to do. You could use this. You can do it alone, or you find co-founders in the community to do that together. And this will help either you do a job searching, or you want to continue to explore whether you want to start something on your own.
Interesting. And it's quite amazing what you're doing as well, because it sounded like it was kind of what you're doing now was inspired by you just genuinely being a nice person and helping a few people, friends that were impacted. And then I guess kind of seeing the impacts of the success that they've had about, you know, kind of being able to recover from being impacted by a layoff. So it's really quite amazing what it is that you're doing, really inspiring as well, because of course I kind of see it as well, the same angle that you do. I speak to job seekers a lot, and a kind of, I would say about 80% of job seekers that I speak to aren't currently working. You know, they've been let go, and this is all around Berlin as well. And I find it really quite insane how companies almost look at these people, and these, you know, really are people and their lives, and they kind of just look at them as though they are just something on a spreadsheet, you know, just numbers. And it's weird. And sometimes you even see CEOs and founders really like boasting about it. Oh, we've just reduced our workforce by 20%. You know, you think, really? That's crazy. Are you kind of seeing it in that way as well? Is there like almost like a disconnect?
Yeah, I see the disconnect, and I somehow feel like right now it's money first. It used to be people first, right? Some of the company they promote like people first, but then when the crisis hit, and what some of the company did is to lay off, like you say, it's like because they look at the numbers, the number doesn't look good. So what they can do is tuning the numbers, and those numbers represent headcounts in certain departments. But we know it's not that easy. It's like every number is a human, and behind this human, there is a family. There's so many different stories. So we are talking about people's life here. And I think if we're building software to, well, a lot of the company to pitch that to improve people's life, then I think there are something that we could do, not just putting the number first, but I know it's a hard thing to do, right? This is business, of course, business first, but I also think that there are space for us to do it better. I think when I talk to people that got laid off, actually they could understand. It's like if the business is not doing good and the business has to survive, they could understand the rationale, but the way you do it, it's like a lot of the time is like there's an email telling you you have a meeting with an HR person, with an executive, and then after the talk, they maybe just cut off your access. This happened. So I think the way you do it don't have to be like that. Can be a little bit more, a little bit more like have human elements in that. And we are human and we need that and we appreciate that. And I think just now you say that like I'm nice, I'm doing this. I also think because why I still stay in tech is because I still the main thing is I like to build products, but I like to do it with human. And the products that I would like to build is to help humans, in day-to-day life. So I think this is something that really make me think and to see that what can I do as an individual person. Sometimes I feel like the system is broken and I can't change the system, but there are something that I can control. There are something that I could contribute. I don't know what will be the outcome, but now is I think I have a very strong voice inside myself that I should continue to do this.
And share the knowledge that you've kind of gained over the last 20 years, right?
Yeah, I receive so many help from different people. So it's also good to help others.
It is amazing, genuinely, what you're doing. It really is, because it's like you can't help but help. Is what I would say is like how I would describe you at the moment, which is like the best thing to be, because it also sounds like you're really leading through empathy here as well, not just by leading by somebody's numbers or like judging them by food or whatever. You're actually looking at them as a human being and their family, and it's amazing. And unfortunately it's rare, isn't it? to hear that. So it's really nice that that's still a thing, and of course that you're really trying to show that as much as possible. I guess, and this is going to be really black and white, this question, so I really apologize, because I know it's not one size fits all. But let's just say if I was a software engineer, I'm in Berlin, and I just got the news that I was going to be let go, and I've got a couple of months to find a new position until I stop getting paid. Got a family. Typically, people often do in tech as well. They're usually working, supporting a family. What advice would you give to me to try and get back on, the ladder as such, or the job market?
Yeah. So I think the very first thing is like people will be worried about many, many things. Like, okay, I'm not going to have money. I'm not going to have, let's say, visa status, or AI is going to take my jobs. There are so many things on your head. I would advise that let's do things step by step. It's like there are things that right now we have to look at. Like, for example, maybe you received the agreement from your employer. We have to check that. Could we get a better severance package? And the other thing is know about your timeline. When can you, let's say, appeal if you want to take like a legal action around that? And then the other thing is how long do you still have the access to the company environment? Because I heard so many things from my friends that they have some personal thing that didn't like they put in the company laptop. So there are something you maybe want to save because they are your personal thing before your access being cut off. And also like the things with the HR is like, how about your pay slip? What about your equity? What about other stuff? So there are some, let's say, paperwork you actually need to put some energy to do. And then also in Germany, in Berlin, we know that we're quite lucky. We have unemployment benefits compared to other countries. So you also need to know when you should go and report, etc. So I think the first 48 hours is, even though it is so hard, you have a lot of emotion, but somehow you need to keep some space to look at like the things you need to sort out because they have some timing behind them. And then afterwards, you sort out the, let's say, the necessary paperwork or your rights. Then is to look at like, all right, maybe you need to look at your financial runway, is how much saving you have, and then the severance pay, etc., give you roughly how many months you could, let's say, continue to live in Berlin without a job, and also to understand if you have a blue card, etc., is how much time you have to look for a new job. So based on that situation, this might change how you want to, let's say, start job searching. Or some people like me is like, I want to work on my own stuff, and what are the options that I could have. And I see a lot of the time is people jump straight into, I will scroll LinkedIn, I will go and apply, I will use AI to apply for the job, or talk to my network that who has an opening. And sometimes I see people rushing this too fast, and they end up in a job that they actually don't like if they have get a job fast, and regret and a little bit like stuck in the current job, but also very afraid to move because of the market situation. So my advice maybe is a little bit controversy. It's like not speed up, but actually in the beginning you need to slow down a bit, but don't like, you will have a safety net after you look into your financial runway, etc. If you really don't have, then yes, because of family, you need to find a job very fast. But if you do, then this is a disruptive time, but also an opportunity to realign. It's like what you enjoy to do in your previous jobs, and then what are your must have, must not have, and then to see that could you realign with your purpose, and then for your next job, try to look for the job that you will actually enjoy. And Glow Step has a 14 days step-by-step checklist. Exactly, is for people who just got laid off, because my friend told me it's like, even though it's the second time I got laid off, I forgot what to do. And then I started to write down what people do during the first 14 days, include what I say is like paperwork, reflection, financial planning, and then is start to think about what job you want, update your CV. Also, it's a very good chance to start to talk to your friends, ex-colleagues. I see this as part of the networking. And this is going to help you in the future. And there's something you do. And then when you are ready, then do a target job search. But not straight away. My suggestion wouldn't be straight away, just look for any job and then regret later.
It's really, really, really good advice, because and you probably have seen this as well, but I have seen so many people who unfortunately have been impacted by layoffs, which is horrible. And they do the opposite of what you've just suggested. They will panic, which is normal. They will think that they need to find a job super quick, maybe even underestimate themselves and undervalue themselves, and take on a job that is almost quite disrespecting, maybe taking pay cuts, taking jobs where they know that there's loads of red flags, just because that they feel that that's the right thing to do. But actually, in the long term, within 6 to 12 months, they're back on the job market, whether that's because they've been laid off again, or if they're just not happy and burnt out. So it's really, really important, isn't it? Some really, really good advice there is look at your own financial situation, look at your rights as well in your contracts, see if you can actually file a lawsuit. A lot of times, maybe you can, and maybe you can get even more in your severance package, like you mentioned. And then see the runway as well, because you're so right. If you've got 6 to 12 months of financial runway to live in Berlin and everything's fine, and you don't need a visa supported or anything like that, then you for sure need to take your time, right? You need to make sure that the next move is the right move, to make sure you're not in this situation over again, because it can actually be counterproductive, can't it?
Yeah, because like layoff is painful, or working in a job you don't like is painful. So if you jump straight into another, like the situation with which will not be good for you, yeah, maybe you don't have to do that. Yeah, and use this time. And you mentioned something really good is some people, like they will start to think that, oh, then market is bad, I would just take any job, I can take a pay cut. And sometimes we do need to take a pay cut. If that fit into what you want to do, that is really something that you think you would like to, like maybe pivot, or this is something resonate with you a lot. I think, yes, that's okay to take a pay cut, but sometimes it's because you don't feel confident. You think that right now the market is bad, this is the best I could have. But it's not true. Like the people I have talked to is like, some still try to get like different options. And this is also something I suggest to people, is actually sometimes you do have options. It's just we have blind spot and we think that we only have one option, and when that option appear, we should grab that immediately. But it's to try to give yourself more options. And there's one story I remember, one of the user interview, it took that person a couple of months, but they got the support from their partner, and they thought that this will be the end of my IT career. But in the end, they land on a job which offer 70% more than the previous salary.
Wow.
So yeah, so I think try to create options for yourself. And then there are two more things I would like to mention is try to have an emergency fund. I think that is very helpful for me, so that now I can have some safety net to support me to do the things I want to do. And also, I think in Germany, this is what I told my colleagues, is like, if you could get a legal insurance, I think that's also a good thing to consider.
Interesting. Very interesting. How much would you say in terms of emergency fund or safety net? Because a lot of people say sort of 6 months, is that right, of your salary to kind of have that safety net? Is there like a metric that you go by?
Yeah, but I try to bump it a little bit, because now it's not as 2 years ago when the jobs come and look for us. And now we look for job, and nobody knows like how long it will take. So before that, I used to have 6 months, but now I personally bump up to 9 months just in case.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Like adjusting accordingly as such. Market.
Yes.
Interesting. And I'm just conscious of time here. I can't believe we've been speaking for how long we have. It's just been an amazing conversation. Really, really, really interesting. And some amazing advice here that you're giving. So I guess I wanted to ask a question, which is, of course, once you're in an interview and you, let's just say, for example, of course, people that have been affected by job losses, whether that's through layoffs and whatnot, they're going to be, of course, being in loads of different interviews and trying to avoid that same situation again, like we mentioned, to try not to be back on the job market for 6 to 12 months again. What kind of things would you say that engineers should be looking out for in an interview when it comes to speaking to companies and trying to make the right decision? Is there any sort of red flags that you could sort of share that you kind of look for? Any tips and tricks?
Yeah, I think I usually would research a bit on the company. I think either like on Glassdoor or different places. How's the, let's say if it's a startup, funding, when did they get the last funding? When did they do the last layoff? And what's in their, let's say did they announce like any roadmap? And also, if I talk with the hiring manager, I would also ask like, what is the financial situation of the company? Is it profitable? And what is the product plan of the company? Are they scaling, or they just want to maintain? I mean, there's no like a good answer. Is like scaling is definitely good, or maintain the current size is definitely bad. But just to see that is like, are there any signal we can catch? Because we have seen that the company lay off people and then they hire very soon again. So there's something that we have to see, like why is this? Is it a strategy move, or is just like sometimes like they have to do this to maintain certain number, and then they just rehire because they have a let's say big contract they have signed and then they want to continue. And I think it's also could be asked in like in a direct way. Like I would think that like being direct is actually good. It's like if you know something about the company, or just ask like how, like, is the company profitable? Is the company growing? How's the customer base? How's the retention, etc. Try to get as much as information you can get.
Interesting. It's interesting you say about like the maintaining of the team, where they say, oh, you know, we just wanted to maintain the numbers. I wouldn't have seen that as a red flag, but you do, right?
I think it's like maintaining the number is like, what's the rationale behind? Are you being very mindful because you want to keep the team, you don't want to do layoff? Or sometimes the maintain the team, but what is the situation is after you lay off, but right now is, I have seen also the company is, there's just like too much things to be maintained. And then if like you go into this situation is to maintain like the things that is like a quite unmaintainable by just adding a new person, and you are going to do a lot of maintenance on the current product. Is this what you want? So I think is to try to dig more at this moment.
Yeah. And also like on that, the digging deeper and stuff like that, I feel like when you've been impacted by layoffs, it goes back to like the confidence thing and the mindset thing as well. I feel like a lot of engineers that have been impacted by layoffs, when they're in an interview, they maybe don't want to ask the questions that they know they should because they don't want to find out the answers, or they feel like they are embarrassed to ask these questions because they're like devaluing themselves. Maybe they've had like a really harsh round of layoffs that was really inhumane, which is happening quite a lot at the moment. But it's like, you know, you've got to be confident in these meetings. I always say it, and it's like the best interviews are the ones where you're also interviewing them and you're also asking them questions, because it's really important for your career, maybe even more important for the person that's actually looking to join a team, to actually ask questions rather than the hiring manager themselves. So all comes down to the kind of mindset thing as well, doesn't it? But there's some really, really great advice there, Meg. And like I say, I'm really sorry for it going so so long, but it's been an absolute pleasure, genuinely. But thank you very much. Is there anything you kind of wanted to end off at the end, or anything else you wanted to add?
I just want to add on the point that when you say like people feel less confident, especially engineer, I understand that. So I think like then it's important to know people like you, people like me. Like don't just stuck when you do let's say job search. Don't think that you have to do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's just like talk to other people, get some ideas, and this will help to change your mindset. Because I think a lot of the thing is the blockage here. You thought you shouldn't ask this, but this is a two-way street. You are interviewing them as well, and you're going to spend a lot of the time of your life there. So let's make sure it's a equally good opportunities for each other.
Absolutely. Ask questions, please, everyone. Just ask questions. I just don't be shy at all. But yeah, look, thank you so much, Meng. I think all of this advice is super, super helpful for everybody right now, whether that's junior engineers that have been impacted by layoffs all the way up to principal, staff level, even CTOs. You know, everybody gets impacted by layoffs, and it's horrible. And what I'll do as well is I'll leave a link in the description of all of the different sort of links and all the articles. And of course, what you're doing right now is amazing. Even the 14 steps guide, I'd be really interested to take a look at that, actually, the layoff 14 step guide. I think that's really cool. So everybody can take a look. Feel free to connect with Meng as well over LinkedIn. But thank you so much, Meng. It's been amazing to have you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Harry.